probably won't believe this at first, but it's true. Cheating happens in the NBA. In fact, it happens a lot more than you might expect. Keep watching to find out about 10 of the most shocking cases of NBA cheating caught on live TV. Jared Dudley. Jared Dudley has never been one of the league's biggest stars, but he has played on some of the best teams. In 2009, he was a key player on the Phoenix Suns during their prime. The Suns' biggest rival was, of course, Kobe Bryant and the LA Lakers. The Suns wanted to beat LA badly, but everyone knew that LA was the better team. This meant Phoenix sometimes had to get creative. Jared Dudley took this a little too far during a jump ball between himself and Andrew Bynum. Andrew Bynum is 7 feet tall, towering half a foot over Dudley. Dudley is also not very athletic by NBA standards, so rather than follow the rules and lose the jump ball, Dudley did something that confused everybody and practically brought the entire game to a halt.
And that's not allowed. Yeah. He's the jumper. Right. So it had to touch somebody else, and that's what Pau Gasol is saying.
Everyone in the building and everyone watching at home knew something was seriously off about this, but at first, it sparked some confusion about the rules. The refs didn't call anything right away. In fact, they called a foul on the Lakers down at the other end of the court. This sent some of the LA players into a rage, but others who weren't as familiar with the rules just stood there dumbfounded. Eventually, the officials gathered together and discussed what happened. It was confirmed that what Dudley did is in fact cheating. The player jumping for the ball cannot leave the circle and also cannot catch the tip from his opponent. Luckily for Dudley, the only consequence that came from this clear attempt at cheating was a turnover. John Collins. When you think of performance-enhancing drugs, you probably think of baseball or cycling. But truth be told, performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs, are used in all sorts of different sports, and basketball is no exception. In fact, if you think about it, basketball is one of the most physically demanding sports that exists. Factors like strength, size, quickness, and stamina are as valuable to basketball players as they are to any athlete. One recent player who felt like illegally upgrading his stamina was John Collins of the Atlanta Hawks. At the start of the 2019-2020 season, Collins surprised Atlanta fans by improving his stat sheet in almost every category. He was scoring more, rebounding more, doing everything at a higher percentage, and playing more minutes than he had during his previous 2 NBA seasons. But the excitement didn't last long. Fans in Atlanta soon learned that what they were watching wasn't natural or illegal. Collins was suspended by the NBA for 25 games after failing a drug test. He tested positive for a growth hormone that he allegedly took in the form of a supplement.
The Atlanta Hawks' John Collins has been suspended for 25 games for testing positive for a growth hormone.
Collins claims he didn't know there were performance-enhancing drugs in the supplements he was taking, but the NBA basically laughed at this. By the time Collins returned to play for the Hawks, the regular season was almost over and they had no chance of making it anywhere near the playoffs. Draymond Green. Draymond Green is one of the most controversial players in the NBA. Many have accused Green over the years of playing dirty. Nobody would argue that Green isn't extremely scrappy and aggressive. However, it still might surprise some fans to find out that Green's dirty play isn't always just unsportsmanlike. Sometimes it's full-on cheating. One of the worst cheats that Draymond has pulled over and over again are the illegal screens he sets. These screens, which often clearly violate the rules, saying you must keep your feet planted, allow deadly shooters like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to get open three-pointers, so the effect they have is massive. Another move of Green's that goes way beyond the rules is his kicking. It sounds crazy to even say out loud, but Draymond really does kick people in the nuts, sometimes really hard, putting them in obvious pain.
In game 2, it's the leg, guys. Watch the leg. Oh.
There's even a third cheating tactic that Green has used more than once, sneaking into the other team's huddle. This is about as clear as an example of cheating as you can imagine. Not only is it obviously against the most basic rules, it's also obvious in the sense that he should get busted right away. But during the playoffs one year, Green got to listen to an insane amount of secret information in the Pelicans huddle before a referee finally ran over. How Alvin Gentry and the rest of the team didn't notice this is impossible to explain. DeAndre Ayton. Believe it or not, John Collins wasn't the only player to get suspended for PED use in 2020. So did DeAndre Ayton of the Phoenix Suns. Ayton was the #1 draft pick in 2018, but he quickly found a way to tarnish his reputation. Right before a regularly scheduled drug test, Ayton used a diuretic. Diuretics are strictly regulated by the NBA because you can take them to hide the use of other illegal drugs, like PEDs. The NBA didn't have any direct proof that Ayton was using PEDs, but the use of the diuretic was pretty damn suspicious. There's really no other reason why he would take it right before a drug test. They slapped Ayton with a 25-game suspension.
DeAndre Ayton, their former #1 pick, has been suspended for 25 games for violating the substance abuse policy,
which was a huge blow for the Suns at the time. Ayton tried to argue that he really hadn't taken the diuretic to cover up drug use and insisted that he be retested. In fact, Ayton argued that he had taken the diuretic by mistake. The NBA wasn't all that convinced by this, but they did agree to retest him and found that he in fact did not have any PEDs in his system. Whether that actually proves anything is not clear. It seems like he would have only tested positive if he had continued to use PEDs after taking a diuretic, but in any case, this did help to soften the blow to Ayton's reputation a little bit. Players Association moved to get Ayton's suspension shortened, citing a little-known provision called unintentional ingestion. Dwight Howard. Being 6'11" and having shoulders the size of exercise balls should be considered cheating already. Dwight Howard has spent nearly 2 decades in the NBA dominating other players with size and strength, but surprisingly, Howard wound up on the list of NBA players who've been caught cheating after a strange event that happened at a Rockets game. The Rockets were in Atlanta to play a game that they were almost guaranteed to win, yet for some reason, Howard still resorted to cheating. He was exposed after Paul Millsap went to the line and started complaining about the ball. Nobody knew what he was talking about. Not even Millsap was sure what the deal was. He just knew the ball felt weirdly sticky and uncomfortable.
And Millsap's telling him to look at the ball. Must be sticky.
Dwight Howard knew exactly what was going on. He had been using a substance called stickum. Stickum is exactly what it sounds like. It's a sticky substance that usually comes in a spray can. Athletes will often apply it to their hands to achieve better grip. Stickum became famous in the 1980s after the NFL banned receivers from spraying it on their hands. It was always against the rules in the NBA as well, but until now, they'd never seen a case of it being used. Howard later admitted that he had no idea stickum was against the rules and that he'd been using it for years. Jason Kidd. It isn't just active NBA players who have been caught cheating on live TV. Sometimes it's former NBA players who come back as coaches. Jason Kidd was the coach of his former Nets during the 2013-2014 season. The team was not that great, and after a while, Kidd started resorting to some pretty creative tactics to try and help his team win. Once, during a close game on Thanksgiving against the Lakers, Kidd realized his team was in trouble. The Nets were down 2 with under 10 seconds to go, and they were out of timeouts. What Kidd came up with was as savage as it was illegal. He told one of his players to hit him, and when he did, Kidd purposely spilled his drink all over the floor. Kidd himself admits this wasn't the world's best acting.
How would you rate that? Give me a scale of 1 to 10 of your acting skills.
Real
there.
stiff.
But it did cause the game to stop for a few moments. This gave Kidd the chance he needed to draw up a play and show it to the Nets. Sadly, it didn't work. The Nets ended up losing the game, and on top of that, Kidd was issued a $50,000 fine. Unlike players who get in trouble for PED use, however, this only raised Jason Kidd's stature in people's mind. It was just about the coolest thing anybody had ever seen a coach try to do. It also showed Brooklyn fans that Coach Kidd was serious about winning at all costs. It would be kinda cool if coaches could get away with this sort of thing. It might even make the NBA more entertaining. But the truth is, there's just no way anybody could ever get away with it when the whole game is on live TV. Andrew Bogut and Brandon Jennings. After Andrew Bogut joined the Golden State Warriors and won an NBA championship, he was trying to cheat his way to the top while on the Milwaukee Bucks. This case of cheating caught on live TV is unique because it actually involves 2 players working together. Bogut and his teammate Brandon Jennings came up with a sneaky plan to cheat at the free throw line. Bogut is a great player, but he's not a great free throw shooter. So when he got fouled, he and Jennings decided to put their plan into action. As the players on the floor reassembled for the free throws, Bogut and Jennings just casually traded places. Jennings, of course, was one of the best free throw shooters on the Bucks roster. What is so amazing about this moment is that Jennings actually managed to shoot and make a free throw before anybody noticed. This happened in the opposing team's arena. You'd think there would have been an uproar much sooner. After Jennings made the free throw, he prepared to shoot the second, but that was when suspicions arose. You can actually see the score bar freeze on the TV broadcast. Whoever was running it realized something was up and they paused it. It would have been even crazier if the point had been added, but it never was. The refs suddenly realized they had been hypnotized by the smooth tricks of Bogut and Jennings, and they made Bogut come back to the line. Bogut missed both his free throws and justice was served. Hedo Turkoglu. After watching this video, you might start to think of basketball instead of baseball or cycling the next time somebody mentions performance-enhancing drugs. Yet another player to get busted for steroids was Hedo Turkoglu back in 2013. Today, the Orlando Magic are right alongside Detroit at the very bottom of the NBA, but but it's easy to forget how, not that long ago, they were in the finals. Alongside Dwight Howard, in his illegally sticky hands, Hedo Turkoglu was a starter for the team that faced off against Kobe Bryant and the Lakers in the 2009 finals. Like his teammate Howard, Turkoglu was also cheating. In 2013, he was busted for using a PED called methanolone. He says he got it from his personal trainer back in his home country of Turkey. Turkoglu was suspended for 20 games, and the news went all around the world. This was one of the earliest cases of a basketball player getting busted for steroids. It also happened right around the time Lance Armstrong admitted to doping on the Oprah Winfrey Show, which meant that athletes taking steroids was a hot button issue. Like many other athletes who have been busted, Turkoglu said that the only reason he was taking the drug was to help recover from an injury. He'd been out most of the season with a broken hand. He was also nursing a shoulder injury that he said gave him horrible pain during workouts.
I was battling a shoulder injury throughout my workouts. I took something that I shouldn't be taking.
This made the whole thing that much more controversial. Many defended Turkoglu and said the suspension was unfair, while others claimed it was the same old excuse they'd heard dozens of times before from other athletes. Turkoglu's career pretty much ended after this. It's hard to say how much the controversy played a part and how much it was just a result of his injuries and age, but it left a stain on his career that never came off. Joe Smith and Kevin McHale. In 1999, Joe Smith was playing alongside a young Kevin Garnett on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The general manager of the Timberwolves, former Celtic Kevin McHale, and owner Glenn Taylor devised a plan that would allow them to give Joe Smith an $86 million contract way above the salary cap. The way the scheme was supposed to work was that Smith would initially agree to being paid way below his market value. This would allow the Timberwolves to retain something called bird rights. Bird rights are named after Larry Bird. Basically, they allow teams to exceed the salary cap in order to re-sign players. It's a little confusing, but all you need to know is that McHale and Smith were trying to exploit a loophole in the rule. They were probably counting on how confusing it was, hoping nobody would figure out what they were up to. At first, it worked, but then David Stern found out about it. Always eager to live up to his name, Mr. Stern leveled one of the harshest punishments in basketball history on them. He fined the team a whopping $3.5 million. He forced both Glenn Taylor and Kevin McHale out of the league for almost 2 years. On top of all that, Stern took away the Timberwolves' first-round draft pick in 2001, but he still wasn't done. Stern then took away their first-round draft picks in 2002, 2003, 2004, and 2005. This brutal punishment basically destroyed the franchise. Instead of building a roster behind their star Kevin Garnett, the Timberwolves continued to suck until Garnett eventually left for Boston. This will definitely go down as one of the worst cheating scandals in league history, and definitely one of the most costly punishments for it as well. If you like this video, be sure to check out our other videos like NBA Ugliest Shooting Forums, Hottest Girlfriends of NBA Players, and Best NBA Fights and Ejections of All Time. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any great content like this. Catch you in the next video.